Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Jeanette, and I'm from the Consumer and Investor Office at the SC. Maybe we should start now because it's 1:05 to make sure that we end on time. So firstly, we would like to welcome everyone to our second installment of our Digital Literacy for Seniors program. The objective of this program this time around is to build your knowledge on how to participate in an e-AGM and to find out more on effective shareholder board engagements. Nevertheless, before we begin, on behalf of the SC, I would like to record our appreciation to higher seniors, Minority Shareholders Watch Group, MSWG, as well as Boardroom for their assistance in promoting this program. Next. Okay, welcome to the webinar once again. Just to share some housekeeping rules before we begin. Please note that this webinar is being recorded. The contents will be uploaded onto our social media platform and YouTube channel to be viewed by the public after the session. During this webinar, if you wish to ask a question, please use the chat function on the Zoom call, or alternatively, you may log on to Slido. Details will be shared in the next slide. The panel will take as many questions as possible at the end of this webinar, should time permit. Prizes for the pop quiz will be sent out to all winners within 14 working days. As the prizes will be sent out to the winners' email addresses, we require for participants to input your unique participant code sent together with this link as username for the Slido. This is to ensure that we actually send to the correct individuals. Yeah. Okay, so for the online shopping vouchers, just to give an idea of what you stand to win. There'll be 1,500 worth of vouchers, and the first prize will be 500 ringgit. The second prize will be 300 ringgit. The third prize will be 200 ringgit. The fourth prize will be 150. The fifth prize will be 100, and there'll be 5 consolation prizes which are worth $50 each. So, okay, and after this webinar, please do take a minute to participate in our survey. The link is as follows. One of my colleagues will be sharing it at the chat window as well. And also we'll be sending it out later at the end of the webinar. Okay, next. Okay, as mentioned earlier, to raise a question and participate in the pop quiz, you may please go to www.sli.do, and once you are on the main page, key in the code T363 to enter the Q&A and pop quiz section. Once in, you can already key in your question under the Q&A tab. To participate in the pop quiz at the end of the webinar, please click the polls tab and key in the participant code that we gave you in your email that you've received from us. Yeah. Once again, the link as well will be shared in the chat function in Zoom. Next. Okay, this will be the agenda for today. We are pleased to have with us today Mr. Devanesan, the CEO of Minority Shareholders Watch Group, MSWG, as well as Samantha Tai, CEO of Boardroom Corporate Services, Sendirian Berhad, to share with us their presentation on shareholder board engagement as well as participating in an e-AGM respectively. At the end of this session, we will have a short Q&A session by the participants, and last but not least, we'll be having a pop quiz as mentioned. Further to this, we will also invite participants to join the survey at the end as mentioned. Yep. Okay, so next. Okay, before we invite Mr. Deva to speak, we would like to give you a brief introduction on the SC and InvestSmart. Securities Commission Malaysia was established in 1993 and is a self-funded statutory body entrusted with the responsibility to regulate and develop the Malaysian capital market products and services. Products and services that are regulated under the SC are such as share trading, unit trust, PRS, peer-to-peer lending, digital assets, and of course, digital investment management. InvestSmart, on the other hand, is Securities Commission's investor education initiative that aims to create more informed investors who are self-reliant and able to make investment decisions that are right for them. InvestSmart initiatives includes the annual flagship investor education event, such as InvestSmart Fest, Bersama InvestSmart at Borneo, SC in the community, talks, as well as we have our InvestSmart website, a mobile application, online educational game called Jump to Invest, and frequent posting on our social media platform, including Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, as well as YouTube. Next. Okay, due to the current financial due to the current difficulty that we are facing, we would like to highlight to investors the current schemes that are being perpetrated so that investors can be more vigilant. The first is the clone scam. This is where scammers tend to pose as representatives of legitimate companies using lookalike company names and logos. Normally, this kind of scheme promises high returns with little or no risk and is marketed via social media. We therefore would like to urge investors to beware of their modus operandi and learn how to protect yourself. They may appear to be the same but not exactly similar. Usually these scammers will approach you through WhatsApp or social media platforms like Facebook, Instagram, or Twitter. Hence, it is important for you to do an independent check by calling the legitimate company. Avoid from transferring payment to accounts belonging to individuals or to different companies as well. These are just few tips for the public when investing. Next. Another popular scheme currently being perpetrated is the too good to be true scheme. This scheme entices us with huge return within a short period of time, just with a small investment. Most of the promise would be invest 300 ringgit and within 24 hours you'll be able to get thousands in return. However, there's a catch to this. It is normally they will either request you to deposit additional money, and they would actually claim that this is from a request from SC, BNM or Lembaga Hasil. As such, unfortunately, we have to pay the amount and the scammers will no longer be contactable. As such, if a scheme appears too good to be true, it probably is. Next. Once again, we would like to stress to everyone to never ever deposit money into an individual bank account. If you have to make payment to the bank account of a company, you need to ensure that the company is legitimate. Next. As there are many scams out there, especially during this difficult time, we would like to encourage investors to check our SC's Investors Alert List, which is available on our SC website before investing. The Investor Alert List is a list for the public to check on unauthorized website, investment products, companies, and individuals. We would like to show you the step-by-step way of checking the list on our website. However, before doing so, let me quickly bring your attention to SC's Public Register of License Holders. Next. The SC's Public Register of License Holders, on the other hand, is a search function available to the public to identify which entities or individuals are licensed by the SC. Licensing ensures an adequate level of investor protection, including the provision of sufficient safeguards to protect investors from default by market intermediaries or problems arising from the insolvency of such intermediaries. More importantly, it instills confidence among investors that the organization and people they deal with will treat them fairly and are efficient, honest, and financially sound. Let us now go to the SC's website to give a brief walkthrough on how to maneuver the site. First, we will look at SC's Investor Alert List. How do we maneuver that online? Maybe we can go to the website now. So first, we go to sc.com.my. Okay. When on the site, click on Investor Empowerment tab. From the drop-down menu to choose Investor Alert List. Once in, you can click Investor Alert List. Once in, you can view the recently added entries at the top. And as you scroll down, you can search by alphabetical order. So the top one is all the recently added ones. Then as you scroll down, you can see, you can search by alphabetical order. Yeah. Okay, so for the SC's Public Register, go to the Regulations tab. And from the drop-down box, click Licensing. Once in, scroll down and click Licensed and Registered Persons. And then you can click the gray box, Public Register. And when you're here, you may actually search by company or representative by searching their names or organization, entity names. Yeah. Okay. Thank you very much. Okay, next. Nevertheless, if you're still in doubt, please do not hesitate to contact us by email, letter, or call us at our hotline 03-6204-8999. Our office are open, and for any changes in timing, you may check it on the website. Next. Okay, before I end my session, my quick welcoming remark, we would like to bring your attention to our next webinar session, which is open to the public, which is going to be held on the 30th of January at 11 a.m. The registration would be closed by Friday, 12 p.m. So do sign up if you're interested to know more about trading cryptocurrency on digital asset exchanges. Next. Okay, this is the last slide for me. Please do follow us on our social media platform for useful information on investing and latest updates on our initiatives. Now, I would like to invite Mr. Devanesan from MSWG to share his presentation on effective shareholder and board engagements. Mr. Deva.
Okay, thank you, Jeanette.
No problem.
Let me just try to share screen.
Okay.
Some slides here. Okay. Okay, good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Just about half an hour to share with you about 5 slides on some of the experiences that we have had and some of the complaints that we have received from minority shareholders when it comes to AGMs, both physical and virtual AGMs. Now, virtual AGMs are very tricky, and I'll share some thoughts and some approaches that we can adopt in making ourselves more effective as minority shareholders. So immediately, I suppose the question is, what are our rights as shareholders? Whether we are minority or non-minority shareholder, we have certain rights. We must realize we are actually a part owner of the company, really. Even if we have one share, one odd lot share, we own a small part of that company. Because the shareholders own the company, the shareholders, of course, elect the directors to take care of their interests in the board. Now, the fundamental rights of shareholders are actually provided under the Companies Act, just been revised a few years ago in 2016. And most importantly, they include the right to speak and vote at general meetings. So the Act talks about speaking and voting at general meetings, but you immediately realize is that how do you speak when there's a virtual AGM? So the word speak has been interpreted liberally to include being heard or being able to communicate. So at virtual AGMs, what you'll find is that you cannot really speak. What you can only do is key in some questions in the chat box and send it. So that has been construed as equivalent to speak. You know, the ability to communicate, the ability to put across a question. So speak has been interpreted very liberally given the virtual AGM environment. Of course, every shareholder has got a right to appoint a proxy for whatever reasons. Maybe you can't attend the virtual AGM. Maybe you're not that good in phrasing questions to ask. So you can always appoint a proxy, and anyone can act as a proxy. The proxy need not be the chairman. Sometimes we think that, you know, proxy means we must give the proxy vote to the chairman to vote. No, anyone can be a proxy. Okay, so do remember both in virtual and physical AGMs, a shareholder can appoint a proxy. Of course, you have the right to request information. Remember, we started off by saying you are a part owner of the company. And as an owner, you have the right to request information. So technically, you can ask for questions anytime. You know, when you read a newspaper report today, for example, and what you normally do is you call the company and they'll more often than not pass you on to investor relations. Now, not all companies have an investor relations department. You'll find that the bigger companies have investor relations department, and they will answer your questions. I mean, that's the whole purpose of having investor relations, to have good relations with investors. And even if a company has got no investor relations, they should oblige and answer your questions. But sometimes they don't. Sometimes they ignore you. Why? That even happens at the AGM itself. So the AGM is the annual meeting where all shareholders have a right to ask questions, and the questions by right should be answered. So do remember point 4, that actually you can ask anytime, but at the AGM you have a legal right. Go back to point number 2, including the right to speak and vote at general meetings. Of course, when we have virtual AGMs and physical AGMs, there are many challenges. My team at MSWG, we also face many challenges. Basically, what it means is at a physical AGM, you can ask a question verbally, whereas at a virtual AGM, you have to type in a question. And we all know it's easier to talk than to type in a question, okay? It's easier to articulate a point or a question than to type into a chat box. It's faster too, so you don't lose your train of thought. And the other most important distinction is at a physical AGM, the board cannot ignore you. You just stand up there at the mic and you just ask the question, and it's awkward for the board to ignore you because there are other shareholders there and you're standing up right in front of them. And if the answer is not satisfactory, it's easier to ask follow-up questions. And it's also easier for the other shareholders to follow up with their own questions based on your question. All that gets a bit more difficult and tricky when it comes to a virtual AGM. So what happens when the company does not answer your question at the AGM? Well, the first thing I suppose we should do is we should follow up with the board and the company secretary for a response after the AGM. Recently, we at MSWG, we attended one AGM where a virtual AGM, where none of our questions were answered actually. And we did highlight that particular company in media and to the regulators. So I suppose if a question is not answered at the AGM, the first thing we should do is, okay, fine, after the AGM, get in touch with the company and tell them, look, I asked this question. Why did you not answer it at the AGM? Okay, maybe they missed it. Maybe there was a glitch. Let's give the benefit of the doubt to them and follow up with the company and the company secretary after the AGM. You could also inform us at MSWG. Okay, going to the regulators would be after you have exhausted all these avenues. Sometimes at the AGM, the board will say, we will answer you privately. Now, that's not the purpose of the AGM. The AGM is a forum. The AGM is a meeting for all shareholders to know what questions are being asked, and the answers should be given at the AGM. So we at MSWG, we find it unsatisfactory where boards say that, we will not answer at the AGM, we will email you privately. And sometimes the email doesn't come. But even the concept of emailing privately makes the whole AGM redundant. Why have an AGM then? Every shareholder just types in a question and you answer them privately. Okay, so this is a point that we have at MSWG, we're trying to stress and put forward to those boards which say they want to answer privately. The typical phrase is, let's take it offline. No, the purpose of the AGM is not for offline questions and answers. It's for online questions and answers. And ultimately, number 7 is, of course, there are provisions in the Companies Act that give you a right, okay, to take action, remedies. But to be pragmatic, to be practical, many minority shareholders will find this difficult, Often it will take time. It may take lawyers. It may take cost. There may be cost in, litigating the issue. And so this is a right that is there in the Companies Act. But to be pragmatic and practical, some minority shareholders may not prefer it. I suppose this right is for minority shareholders with a bigger chunk of shares. Remember, even 4% shareholding is technically a minority shareholder. So these are some of the points about shareholder rights. And let me go on to the next slide. Again, just highlighting the points about physical AGMs and virtual AGMs. I did touch this point a bit earlier. Now, physical AGMs are always the preferred choice, clear, concise, and precise. Now, these are some of the points that shareholders should bear in mind when they are engaging with the board, when they are questioning the board, when they are asking for clarification from the board. In fact, not only physical AGMs, you'll find that a lot of these points here also apply to virtual AGMs. So if you're talking in a physical AGM or if you're typing in a chat box, make your question clear, concise, and precise, to the point. So at least the board can address it. Otherwise, what happens is what they call your shadow boxing on different planes. It's very frustrating. It has happened to me also. I ask one question, they give another answer. Then I ask another question to clarify and they give another answer, and it goes on and on like that. Sometimes it's because we don't posture our questions in a very clear, concise, and precise manner. That's why there's room for misunderstanding. And of course, ask relevant questions. They've come across instances where in a telco AGM, they come and some shareholders will ask, my bill for the month of July was, completed wrongly, I think. Now, these are all other issues, not AGM issues. They are valid customer-centric issues, but you don't have to highlight it at the AGM really. Okay? So if you do this kind of questions, then of course, there's a tendency to ignore these questions. At all times, be polite. Yes, we have attended a few AGMs where shareholders have been aggressive, and the board also has been aggressive. The point is to be assertive, but not aggressive, resorting to foul language or swearing at each other, both board and minority shareholders. Minority shareholders especially are very frustrated sometimes because they lost money by investing in the shares. Okay, but being angry and swearing and being rude does not solve the problem. The board only gets defensive and counter-aggressive. And choice of words are very important, of course. You don't want to accuse unless there's a basis, okay? So the words that we use, again, both for physical and virtual AGMs, should be fair words. And physical AGM, of course, intonation, because you have a voice, it's so much easier to communicate because, the pitch of your voice, how fast you speak, how loud you speak, all these matters. None of these are relevant in virtual AGMs because there's no intonation when you key in questions. Perhaps the only guide is the language skills when you key in your questions. So virtual AGMs, yes, all of the above. And one more important point for virtual AGMs is learn to type fast. Because there are some AGMs we have attended where, the virtual platform, the minute you go to type a question, you're locked out from the AGM proceedings. So you don't know what's happening while you're typing the questions. After you post the questions, you get connected back to the AGM proceedings. So while you're typing the question, you don't know what's happening. And for all you know, your question may have been answered, but you've been locked out. So these are some of the challenges that we have faced. So physical AGMs, virtual AGMs, most of the points are valid for both. So for minority shareholders and any shareholder, a checklist is always useful. So we have what is called the AGM Corporate Governance Checklist. So very quickly, in an effort to promote meaningful dialogue and discussions between shareholders and directors at AGM, 3 parties got together, the Securities Commission, MSWG, and the Institutional Investors Council. It's a tripartite effort. And they came up with this checklist for shareholders, or the AGM CG checklist. The AGM CG checklist highlights issues which shareholders should consider prior, at, and after the AGM. Okay, and the AGM CG checklist can be downloaded from the SC website. There is the link. And you can also download it from MSWG's website. 2 good things about the checklist. Number 1, it's free of charge, okay, because you can download. Number two, is very readable, all in point form. I think there's only about 2 pages, 2 or 3 pages only, the whole checklist. It's not a thick booklet. So it's very friendly, it's readable, big font size, for seniors especially. I find it useful, rather than trying to squint my eyes. So for all shareholders, it's a useful guide. Some of you may be experienced shareholders who understand the annual report better and the CG issues and industry or sector of the PLC much better. But some may be just beginners, some are novice shareholders. Regardless of what maturity you have as a shareholder, this checklist is a good guide. So do download it, do read it, and do have a look. And some of our observations at the AGMs, of course, irrelevant questions. Okay, shareholders do sometimes tend to ask questions that are not relevant. I gave an example earlier about the telco company where shareholders complain about the billing. Okay, some PLCs are very good during physical AGMs, especially. They have a separate desk before the start of the AGM where they say this desk is only for customer complaints. If you have an underbilling situation regarding your bill for me, just approach that desk. It's not really an AGM issue as such. Okay, so we must make our questions relevant. Number two, sometimes, of course, we seem to be more interested in door gifts and e-vouchers. I can understand a gift is a gift, it excites everyone. I too get excited by gifts and vouchers. But that is not the main purpose of the general meeting. Okay, the main purpose of the general meeting is to engage the board as an owner of the company, a part owner of the company, actually, the shareholder. Is to engage the board to ask questions about the performance, about corporate governance, financial matters, strategy, and performance of the public listed company. Of course, at physical AGMs, there are 2 kinds of boards. The mingling type and the unmingling type, okay? There's some of my observations. At some board meetings, very pleasant that this before the COVID-19 pandemic, the directors actually, mingle with the shareholders and have a chat. And this gives a nice warm feeling amongst the shareholders. And then again, there are some other PLCs where just at the start of the AGM, from a door at the back of the halls, a group of directors walk in, go up the stage, sit down, and after the AGM, they miraculously disappear behind the door at the back of the wall or back of the hall. Okay, this is not so much for us as shareholders. And actually, in a way, it's for us shareholders also. If we do get to mingle, we can actually, ask a question individually to the shareholders, to the directors also, and they'll be more open perhaps, as opposed to engaging at the AGM. Not answering shareholders' questions. Okay, this I've shared with you earlier. Sometimes when board members don't have the answer, they know what question you're asking, but they give you another answer. And hopefully, you just keep quiet after that. It reminds me a lot of how, at least I sometimes used to do my exam during my school days. The question asked me something else. Actually, I don't have no idea of what the question is, but guess what? I know something about this area, let me write that area. And of course, you don't get good marks for that. Okay, so be aware, and this is where shareholders must be persistent. Follow-up questions become important. You have asked a question and you want an answer to that particular question, not some other answer. I liken this to what I call the shadow boxing on different planes. You can always go and never meet the question and answer. Whether it's due to misunderstanding or a strategy adopted by the board sometimes to evade answers, well, let's give the board the benefit of the doubt. Maybe they didn't understand. So we follow up and ask another questions to clarify. 5 and 6 neither helps aggressive shareholders and aggressive directors. Sometimes one leads to the other, actually. That's what I've noticed. Either aggressive shareholders result in directors become aggressive, or sometimes aggressive directors result in shareholders becoming aggressive. But neither is condoned or warranted. I think the word that we should strive for is assertive, firm, fair, and clear. okay, not aggressiveness. But human nature is such that if one party is aggressive, the other party tends to counter with equal aggressiveness, or just climb up and not give answers. Not giving enough time for shareholders' questions is a problem, whether it's a physical or virtual AGMs. In a physical AGM, it's easier. If after 10 minutes, the chairman wants to close the Q&A session, the shareholder will just stand up and say, no, we've got more questions. We want to continue. And the board will normally give in. But at a virtual AGM, it's a bit more difficult, you know. The chairman will either say, we have no questions, when actually there are a lot of questions in the chat box, which other shareholders cannot see. Or the chairman of the meeting will just say, you know, that's it, I'm closing the Q&A session, as there are no questions. And no one has any idea whether there are any questions, other questions, or whether there actually is no question. Because very often these virtual platforms don't allow you to see other shareholders' questions. In fact, as far as MSWG is concerned, what we advocate is that all questions asked by the shareholder at the virtual AGM must appear on the screen live. Okay? You don't need moderators then, you know. The minute I type in a question, it's there live. So all shareholders will be aware of what question is being asked. So the good news, not many PLCs abuse virtual AGMs. Yeah, there are a handful of PLCs which will abuse virtual AGMs. We gave one example where, you know, the AGM started at 10 o'clock. By 10:30, everything was over. The Q&A session was over. At 10:30, they adjourned for poll voting. 10:45, announced the poll results. And that was the end of the AGM. And with hindsight, when we spoke to other shareholders, yes, they had a lot of questions that they asked through the chat box, which was not answered. In fact, in this particular instance, MSWG's very questions were not answered by that particular PLC. Okay, just some points I thought I'd share with you all. I'm sure you may have some questions later on, and it is challenging. Okay, remember the gold standard when it comes to AGMs under the Malaysian Code on Corporate Governance, you know, is to have a hybrid AGM. But hybrid AGMs, what does hybrid AGM mean? Both physical and virtual. But hybrid AGMs are meant for companies with a large amount of shareholders, or where they have a lot of their shareholders at remote locations. Okay, not for all PLCs hybrid AGM. So advice to directors especially is that talk to your company secretary on the type of AGM you want to have, because the company secretaries are the experts in governance, in corporate governance. Okay, so for directors, maybe you can also tell your director, any of the directors you come across, talk to the COSEC and decide on the AGM or the type of AGM that you wish to have. Of course, under current MCO, you have no choice. You must have a virtual AGM. But, you know, going forward, when there's no pandemic, there is a chance that more and more PLCs will still resort to virtual, okay, as a choice. And on that note, thank you very much. I look forward to your thoughts, comments, and questions later.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Deva, for the very informative presentation. We would now like to invite Ms. Samantha from Boardroom to share her presentation. Thank you.
All right. Is everyone ready? So thanks, Mr. Deva, for the interesting sharing in terms of all the challenges and issues raised during the virtual AGM. Janet, sorry, can I take all?
Sorry?
So I will start?
Yes, please.
Okay, all right. So as you have all heard just now from Janet, that there are some prize giveaway for the pop quiz. So I hope you all can now maybe pay some attention to this. It's very important so that later you can actually raise those pop quiz, try to participate so that we can be active. So as she has mentioned, you can also raise it in the chat group here. All right, so what is the areas that we will be covering in terms of the AGM, right? What has actually transformed from physical AGM to virtual AGM, right? Mainly driven from last year, especially, right, impact of the COVID-19 on the AGMs. What has then changed? How has it changed, right? And some key terminology so that for your ease of reference, as well as the difference between hybrid and virtual annual general meeting going forward when the pandemic, let's say, if it's over, then what are the options out there? Practical tips for shareholders to improve your participation at the virtual meeting. What do you need to know? Boardroom Share Investor Portal. So there are many things now that because of COVID, everybody is trying to leverage on technology. So we will then share with you in terms of how you can get yourself ready, right, to participate in all this. And then lastly is the remote participation and the voting platform. So after my sharing, we will invite then one of my colleague, Grace, actually to show you the live in terms of how you actually go step by step. So don't have to worry about reading too much into this. In fact, SC will also record this today's recording will be uploaded on their website as well. Then it is actually very easy for you. You can perhaps get your children, or even if wherever the PLC's counter that you are shareholder, and Boardroom is a share registrar, you can just call our help desk. We will be able to assist you in terms of the registration for the virtual meeting. All right, next. So this is the revolution. So like I say, driven mainly because of COVID, but it's not just in Malaysia, it's globally, right? That a lot of other countries, they have no choice but to hold virtual AGM, right? For the safety of all attendees. Next. So why COVID? What has the impact of COVID to do with the AGM? Because of the physical contact, right? And that's why the change to virtual meeting to enable shareholders to still exercise your right, as what Mr. Deva has mentioned earlier, to speak, raise questions, as well as to vote at the meeting. And that's how the virtual meeting has then become the norm. All right. So out of I think 340 AGMs that we hold last year in 2020, around nearly around 200 that was actually held via virtual. All right. So you can call it virtual, online, e-AGM. Right. This is what it means is using electronic to actually participate. All right. Instead of attending physically, so you can actually attend, participate, ask questions, and votes. All right. And of course, the most famous question, door give, right? What happened to the door give? So we will share that later. Next slide. So we have this Security Commission guidelines on the conduct of AGM for listed issuers. All right. So if it is MCO and CMCO, subject to the SC guidelines, because they will have to continuously be revised in accordance with the SOP announced by MGAN. So if it is MCO currently, for example, then only virtual meeting can be conducted. So it has to be done online because no mass gathering is allowed, all right? No physical meeting is allowed at hotels, convention centers, and office, all right? So even some of the AGMs that we conducted during MCO, even the police will pay us a surprise visit to check, to make sure the SOP is complied with and all that. So that's why the shareholders are actually not allowed to attend a full virtual meeting during the MCO, all right? For MCO, during MCO, enhanced MCO, again, same thing, no mass gathering is allowed, all right? For RMCO, recovery MCO, then you can actually have physical, online, or hybrid meetings subject to the SC guidelines, all right? Okay, next. So this is some of the key terminology, right? We say remote participation, or you can see in some of the PLC's AGM notice or admin details, admin guide, they will say remote participation and voting, or RPV. All right, this is actually another meaning is online, or you don't have to attend physically at the AGM location or the broadcast venue. All right, but merely having to use technology to participate in the meeting using any device, right? It can be handphone, tablet, laptops, all right? So this is to ensure the safety of everyone, all right? Minimal mass gathering during the MCO especially, okay? So remote participation and voting credentials, actually this is the ID and the password, just like when you go online for your banking transaction, right? So similarly here, to make sure that only shareholders who are entitled to attend meetings, then they have to register and it will be verified against the record of depositors that these are the shareholders who are entitled to attend the meeting. So therefore, then we will issue the ID and the password via email, right? Virtual online electronic meeting. So this is again where we say virtual AGM. Sometimes you heard the word virtual EGM, virtual AGM. So it's actually meeting conducted online with participants, shareholders, proxy, corporate rep joining the meeting over the internet. All right. Then of course you can refer to the notice of meeting or admin guide where they actually set out a lot of the procedures, right, for the meeting. The main key thing you probably need to look out for in terms of the time, date, and the venue of the AGM. All right, next. Okay, so broadcast venue. So what is broadcast venue? It's actually a physical venue where the chairperson of the AGM is physically present, right? But the shareholders are not allowed to attend the broadcast venue. Why? Because later I will show you in terms of who are actually at the broadcast venue, right? So broadcast venue is where some of the virtual AGM, where it's managed, sometimes the camera crew and the essential persons are actually at the broadcast venue, right? So we will share that with you later. So like for example, now, during the MCO, only 8 essential persons are allowed. And we actually have to apply to the Securities Commission for this essential person to travel to the broadcast venue. All right. Live broadcast. So this is where it's like YouTube, right? You have live screening via internet. And that's where you can see the chairman and all the other key management person. You can hear them speak and you can raise the question, right? But you cannot see the other shareholders unless it is a hybrid where you have a mixture of both physical and virtual AGM. All right. Okay, e-proxy. So e-proxy, this, with the MCO now, because restriction in traveling, and then you have to pay postage costs. So at the request of some clients, so we have actually now started last year, which a lot of shareholders have find it very helpful because now you can actually submit your proxy online if you do not wish to attend the AGM, but you want to attend somebody else as your proxy, then you can actually do so right online without having to drop off or sending the hard copy. All right. Online voting. So this is again without having to attend the meeting physically, you can actually submit your voting. There are many ways to vote, which we will share with you later. Next. So this is just a sample notice of the AGM, all right? And what you need to look out for in terms of the mode of communication, right? So that will indicate to you, is this a physical meeting? Is this a virtual meeting? Or is this a hybrid, right? And a day and date, time of the meeting, and broadcast venue. So if you see the word broadcast venue, right, then you know it will be a virtual meeting because of the live stream, all right? Next. Very good. I see some questions being put into the chat. So continue to do so. Then we will address that at the end of the session. Now, the next, of course, indication of door gift policy. So it's just that despite some admin guide having indicated that there is no voucher, no souvenir, there are still a lot of questions posed in the chat group asking the reason why there's no voucher, or can the company to reconsider giving a door gift, right? So this is where the challenge arises. Because of this, a lot of the companies, PLCs that we have conducted the AGM last year, you will receive from, for example, 30 over questions up to some as many as 150 questions submitted online, right? And because of this, that's also one of the reasons I think Mr. Deva was asking just now, right? Can all the questions be actually shared to all the shareholders? So it will take some time to actually share 150 questions. And that's the reason why some company, they actually have the moderator to filter similar or repetitive questions. However, of course, if you feel that your questions are not addressed, you can repeat that in the chat group as well. All right, but I'm just trying to explain the reason why some company is just not practical. But we do have some client who actually publish the questions raised by the shareholders. All right, and majority of our clients actually will try to address most of the questions raised online. Okay. Entitlement to participate, this is the ROD cutoff, right? So as we mentioned, when you submit your proxy form, for example, we have to make sure that you are a shareholder as at the cutoff, the ROD date indicated in the AGM notice or the admin guide, all right? So this is where then you need to make sure that you register on time, okay? Next. All right. This is about appointing chairman. So this is your option, right? It's just that, of course, as Mr. Deva highlighted, you have the option to appoint anyone other than the chairman as the proxy, all right? All you need to do is you can just download from the proxy or submit online, which we will show you live later on how to go about the e-proxy. Okay, next. So this is where it will be indicated if e-proxy, there's an option there, then it will be indicated in the AGM notice or the admin guide. So this is just for the counters where Boardroom is the share registrar. We will indicate that you can actually go to the link, https, right, www.boardroomlimited.my. All right, so then you can actually go into that Boardroom investor portal to submit the e-proxy. Okay. So the deadline for proxy submission, again, it will be indicated there, but generally it's 24 or 48 hours before the AGM, subject to the constitution. All right, next. So this deposit of your proxy form. So there are various ways to do it. You can still do hard copy. All right. It's just that because if you don't want to travel due to COVID restriction, on travel restriction now that you have, right? And also to save postage costs, then you have the option to do online e-proxy form as well, deposit online, all right? You can also do via fax if you want to. Next. So this is the online that I mentioned here, all right? You can go to www.boardroomlimited.my, all right? So this is where actually you can register. You need to scan, of course, your My Card. Actually, it's very easy nowadays. If you have the phone, you can use your phone camera to just take a picture front and back and scan and upload into the portal. All right, next. So this is just some tips. Just make sure that you are using the latest browser whenever you want to join any live stream, right? Latest browser, which is Chrome or Firefox. Which will actually improve in terms of the live broadcast, right? From your side, from the user side, okay? Next. This is the e-proxy lodgement. So once you have gone into the portal, then you need to enter the CDS account number and the total number of securities logged in, all right? If you have any problem, please feel free. For those counters, again, under Boardroom, you may contact us 7890-4700, right, for the helpline, or you can contact our help desk at bsr.helpdesk@boardroomlimited.com. Next. All right. So this is the electronic voting. All right, that they indicate that there will be e-voting, there will be scrutineer, and then who is the share registrar. Okay, I know that somebody put in the chat group that there are various share registrar using different requirement. It's just any technology, right? Because different platform that you use, they will have different ways of logging in and so forth. So that's why it is very important that you need to refer to the admin guide, which will actually set the step-by-step. But again, for Boardroom, this, as I mentioned, you can always call the help desk. And again, you can also refer to this video subsequently if you need to sort of like just test the system again to get yourself familiarized. But we have conducted more than 340 meetings, right? So During the initial stage COVID last year, yes, there are many questions posed into the chat group as well as the help desk, trying to actually navigate into the system. But because by year end, there are already 340 meetings conducted, more and more shareholders are used to actually logging into the system. So it is very good that if you can do so, the more you practice, the easier it gets, right? Okay, but of course, we will share with you the tips later on how to overcome some of the challenges when you go online. All right, next. So this is where the chairman, some meetings, they will actually invite the poll administrator to go through the polling process. All right, even this, we see actually now less and less requirement because a lot of the shareholders have actually attended and they know how to go about it. But as a norm, most of the PLC will still have this video recording to give step by step in terms of how you can click to view the broadcast, where do you go for the chat, as well as how do you do your voting. So all this procedure will also be read out during the AGM itself as well. All right, next. So how do you access the virtual voting platform? Okay, so there are 3 ways, and all these are actually set out in the admin guide. You can actually download Lumi AGM app, right, using Apple App Store or the Google Play Store. Okay. Secondly, I hope by now, a lot of you may have used QR scanner before, right? So all you need to do is just scan the code, which is already printed in the admin guide. All right. Third option is you go to the website itself, https://web.lumiagm.com. All right, this is where you actually can conduct the voting as well as raise questions that is required. Again, by using this, you can use any of this device option, whether it's laptop, desktop, right, tablet, handphone, right? Next. Okay, I think in the chat group, right, somebody was saying credible platform and all that. So for ours, it's actually have been audited by audit firm, all right? And the reason why it is very detailed audit to make sure the security, because for us, we don't use Zoom. When you use other platform like Zoom and Teams, sometimes it is open to others hacking into the platform. All right. So for us, it's the streaming software to ensure the security. All right. And that's the reason why also we have got it audited. So audit trails, how you vote, everything, the audit report can actually, the audit trails can actually generate this kind of report when necessary, as and when required. All right. So this is just to illustrate, right? When it's virtual AGM, how it works is you have a broadcast venue. All right. So the venue, it can be anywhere, but the internet connection must be strong. This is where the essential person, right? So you have the chairman of the meeting, you have the essential person. It could be auditors, company secretary, all right, the webcaster who are there. And then you have the online platform, which is stated in the admin guide. So the camera crew will actually be taking the recording, all right? And you have poll administrator. Some of this, they may or may not be at the broadcast venue because they can also join remotely, just like the shareholders, all right? Next, so you have the moderator as well. As I mentioned, trying to explain just now why the moderator, because of the questions, number of questions, and there are a lot of repetitive and similar questions that are being raised by shareholders. So you imagine in the physical AGM, for example, even last time, pre-COVID, we have like 3,000, 5,000 shareholders who register, but the people who stand up and raise questions, probably 20 to 30 shareholders, right? But when it is virtual, interestingly is we noted that because it is virtual, there are probably some company with the high count of shareholders, you can actually see about 100 over shareholders questions being raised online, all right? And a lot of our clients, majority of them will actually try to address as many of the 100 questions as possible. It is just that, you know, when you have virtual meeting, we noted that after 1 or 1.5 hours, the tendency for the participants who join remotely will actually reduce, because not everybody will want to sit through 2 hours AGM, for example, right? And that is the reason why they try to group together some of the questions which are similar or repetitive and address them, all right? Then you have the, okay, so next, this is on the day of the virtual meeting. So you can see that this is just an example how the virtual meeting will look like. So on your left-hand side, you have the, you can see the desktop. You can actually see the screen where they will sometimes, some PLC will post some message on that. Let's say, for example, whether there are vouchers, whether there is some help desk contact point you can call pertaining to the business or pertaining to the AGM. So this will be indicated there. Then on the right side, you will have the live broadcast. So you can actually click to the live broadcast and you can actually watch the the meeting live. Okay. On the right hand side, you can see this is the voting, right? Where you can actually, when you use your mobile, because when you use your mobile, the screen tend to be smaller. So that is why it is good for you to familiarize yourself with the symbol, right? If it is broadcast, then you can look at the broadcast symbol. And if it's chat group, then you click the chat group. So we will share with you later on live how to go about all this later. Yeah. Next. All right, so this is where just now we talk about various meeting, right? So you have physical meeting pre-COVID, then you have virtual meeting during the MCO. Hybrid meeting is just that, bear in mind, hybrid meeting is a combination of physical meeting plus virtual meeting. So there may be a tendency that the cost, there may be a cost, higher cost, because you have to manage not just the physical venue itself, but also offline, all right? Next. So this is the difference between hybrid and virtual, because let's say now, for example, because MCO, you're not allowed to hold hybrid, right? But let's say during the RMCO subsequently, and the SC guideline allow hybrid meeting, okay? Then, however, because some company, some MKN SOP, for example, they will say, indicate mass gathering, how many people are allowed, right? So, but SC guideline, it is then guided by the size of the venue. So let's say you have booked a standard size of a meeting room that is only suitable. Bearing in mind, you have to have the SOP. Some company adopt the 1 meter social distance, right? Some company adopt 2 meter. So depending on that, their SOP, then they can only limit so many number of people into the meeting room. And this is where they will then require pre-registration, right? So last year we have done some for physical meeting where the shareholders can actually register for the meeting without having to wait on the day of the AGM itself, okay? So with that, then it is easier to manage a hybrid meeting in terms of the number coming in, because you also don't want shareholders to come and then they are not able to go into the meeting room, right? But so the registration counter for hybrid meeting, there will be a registration counter. For virtual, as I explained just now, for the safety of everyone, because they are not allowed to attend the meeting, there will be no registration counter. Next. Oh, sorry. I think I have to speed much more faster, because just now the other earlier sessions all have take more than 10 minutes, right? So bear with me. If I go too fast, just put it into the chat for me to slow down, all right? So attendance of board meeting, of course, if it is a hybrid where you actually have the physical venue, right, then more directors will be able to attend the meeting. Next. So participation. So if it's hybrid, you can actually join virtually, right, without going to the physical venue itself. So this will ensure in terms of the safety. Those who want to attend physically, they can do so for hybrid meeting, but not for virtual meeting. All right. Next. Okay, method of voting. So you can do for hybrid remotely, or you can do it physically at the venue itself and using the device, multiple device indicated. Next. So the voting results, right? There are many ways to carry out the voting. It's just that because it is virtual meeting, right? And as I mentioned, some shareholders just don't want to attend 2 hours before they can be able to vote. So that's why some PLC have actually allowed voting at the beginning of the meeting. All right. Next. So this is a difference in terms of hybrid meeting where you actually have the registration and physical attendance by the shareholders as well as those who join remotely. Next. This is the practical tips for before the virtual meeting, because we have had a lot of calls during the first 2 months last year. I think during May and June, July, there were a lot of calls to the help desk, right? So this is where we urge you to address some of these issues or challenges upfront so that you can actually enjoy the live stream much better, right? One of it is, for example, your email and contact details. Do go to your broker to update your records, because only then share registrar, when they extract the AGM ROD, they will be able to get your email address, the latest email address. Okay. You can also download Browser Anywhere application, all right, from Google Play or App Store to update your data. Next. All right. So this is where before the day of the meeting, you register your details, and then we will verify, and then we will send the confirmation. All right. So the proxy appointment, you can appoint the chairman or any other representative of your proxy. But of course, shares that are held under nominee companies, you need to get the nominee company to do that registration. Yeah. Okay. Because they are the registered shareholder. Next. So this is some of the common challenges that the users face from their house or from their office. Sometimes they mention about the quality of the live stream, right? So it is actually beyond the PLC, because this is actually depending on your internet, Wi-Fi bandwidth, right? Your battery, is it charged, fully charged? If you can, make sure. Next. Check your internet connection. So this is just some example that we illustrate here. Go into your device setting, right? Look at in terms of the display, look into the network, make sure you are connected, all right? The minimum bandwidth internet that you need to have is 5 Mbps. So long as you can watch your YouTube by right, it should be there. But you know, even like now, MCO, right? Sometimes it's just not stable. 1 minute you can see it very clearly, next minute you can't. So all you need to do is just log in, log out, or refresh the screen. Okay, next. All right, so this is just an illustration where you actually check your Wi-Fi connection, whether it's strong or not. Okay, next. The display to brightness. Again, some shareholders will call and say, I can't see, I can't read, I can't hear, right? So this, again, you have to manage the device. So do sort of like a mock try, right, before the AGM itself, so that when come AGM, you won't have all this problem by putting the setting correctly in your laptop. Okay, especially the old laptop, sometimes you may face this issue. All right, next. Same with the sound, the audio. So sometimes they say they can't hear. Again, it has nothing to do with the PLC, but your device that is actually within your control to increase the volume, the speaker volume. All right, next. So this is the symbol for boardroom, those counters which is under boardroom as a share registrar. To click to view the live broadcast, you need to click into the broadcast signal there. All right, so this is actually live one. When you look at the mobile, this is how it appears. And if you look at the desktop, it will be on the top, all right, indicating, and then you click the broadcast, straight away you will be able to see the live broadcast. Next. Okay. So post questions. So you need to just click on the chat symbol and then type in whatever question you need to raise and then touch send. Okay, next. This is in terms of the raising the question using your desktop, right? Same procedure. Next. Right? So this is for voting. Okay, so different platform may appear differently. So for share registrar for under boardroom, you will see it's indicated there for or against. So all you need to do is just click which is your preferred option decision, right? Once you click it, there will be a confirmation message that your vote has received. But despite that, even if, let's say, the voting is open at the beginning of the meeting, you can still change your vote, right? Just by clicking the other button. If you want to, let's say you voted for, you want to change to against, you can just go to against and click again. Until such time when the chairman announces the voting or the polling is closed, then you will not be able to change the vote. All right. So just bear that in mind, because we have some shareholders who attend. So if you need to know what is the procedure, it's all stated in the admin guide. So make sure you join timely, because if the vote has closed and you only join the AGM after the closure of the polling, then of course you will not be able to exercise your vote. Next. Okay, next. So if you didn't receive the password or the ID after you have gone online to register, please check your junk folder, because sometimes it could have been spammed out, right? Or contact us, the help desk, as I have given you the contact earlier. All right. This is for them to just make sure that they will verify and resend to you if there is necessary. So a lot of times it actually goes into the, it has been spammed out. All right. If you're unable to log in, then please check correct website address you have entered into. Make sure the ID and the password, whether it's capital letter, non-capital letter. So follow it, right? Because it's very case sensitive. Ensure you have internet access, and then refresh. Every time you see the screen is frozen, suddenly you can't hear, refresh or log in, log out again, log out and then log in again. All right, next. Okay, so if you want to join, then you can actually do participate on yours by your own. But if you do not wish to join, then you can go to e-proxy to appoint another person as your proxy, or chairman as the proxy. Next. So unstable internet access, right? So we can't really help much, right? It's just that before the AGM, so it would be good, like say, try out, if let's say you are in the home, certain place nearby or nearer to the Wi-Fi, perhaps it's stronger, or if you can use cable. Sometimes also if you can use the headphone, it may help in terms of the sound, the audio, right? Okay. Yeah, so if the screen freeze, unable to vote, then refresh or log out and log in again. Next. Cannot hear, so again, go back to the volume control setting in your device, right? So it's actually within your control. Unable to see, so there are some shareholders who say they are not able to see because the wording is too small. Then you can actually use your device screen, whether it's desktop or the monitor, to enlarge it so that you can actually read. But again, of course, if you can't, you can always request from the PLC, whether they are able to get the slides. Okay, next. Your questions are not answered by the board. So this is where just now we have explained the challenge sometime, because there are company where you actually have 100 over questions being sent out, right? So in view of the time constraint and making sure that every shareholders are given the opportunity to raise question as well. But again, like Mr. Deva has mentioned, if you're not satisfied, you can always write to the company, okay, to reply to your questions raised. Technical glitch. So sometime it could be, let's say, where the broadcast live is carried out, the internet may have issue or certain technological problem, then they may probably announce at the chat group, right, to inform shareholders, give them maybe 5 minutes or half an hour for them to solve the technical glitch, right? So we have not come across one that have actually adjourned due to technical glitch, okay? But the other possibility, of course, if the technical glitch cannot be resolved, then you can actually adjourn the meeting to another day. Okay, next. Right, this is the Boardroom Smart Investor Portal, okay, where you can actually go in. Next. So for those of you, if you have the time, do go into this www.boardroomlimited.my. Next. And you will be able to register for all the counter that is managed under Boardroom Share Registrar. So you only need to do one time, log in the ID and password to participate in the e-AGM, all right? E-proxy submission, Then you can also submit your questions prior to the AGM. And this is where we encourage shareholders, if possible. You don't even have to wait on the day of the AGM. Even 1 week, 2 weeks before the AGM, you can also submit your questions via to the email address that is given on the website that is given in the admin guide. Submit your questions early. That will give time to the management or the board to actually address all these questions, all right, rather on the day itself, okay? Request for annual report circular. So again, some shareholders, because of the MCO probably delay in the postal, right? Then you can actually request for annual report via the portal. Next. Okay, this is how it looks. Next. So you click register, and then this is the registration where you have to key in your IC, right? And then you can use your mobile, snap a picture, upload into the portal, all right? Then it will be verified by Boardroom and they will send an email to confirm that. Next. All right. So this is a confirmation, just an example. Next. Okay. This is where you actually log in, the email address and the password that has been emailed to you. Okay, next. So now it's already 2:16. Maybe because there is, sorry, just give me a second. Grace, can you?
Yes, Sam, I'm here.
So maybe if you can, because there's not much time left, maybe if you can just do a 5-minute faster pace to show them live in terms of how to go about the registration and participating and voting at the meeting.
Oh, sure, can, Sam, no problem. Okay, thank you, Sam. Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Grace from Boardroom Marketing and Sales, and I will be showing all of you on how to register to attend the virtual meeting and how to join the virtual meeting on the actual meeting day. So first of all, earlier my colleague Samantha has shared you will have to do if you have not registered for our Boardroom Smart Investor Portal, you will have to do a one-time registration by logging into the website boardroomlimited.my. It will be best to use your mobile phone to do this because you can actually take a photo of your IC front and back and save it in the gallery first. Because one of the function in the website is that you have to you are required to upload your IC, and you can, if you are using your mobile phone, you can upload directly from the gallery itself. So once you have received, you have done the registration, you click submit. So the verification will take about 1 business day after verification of email address, and after that you will be able, and once verified, you will be able to log into this Boardroom Smart Investor Portal. So once you are in this page, once you have logged into the Boardroom Smart Investor Portal, you will have on the left hand side, you can see the panel of functions that are available here, which is the e-proxy lodgement, the virtual meeting, submit questions, the investor services, and also the contact us button. So if you are attending the meeting, you will have to click on this virtual meeting function here and just click apply on the meeting that you would like to attend. So please note that these are the meetings that will that is actually run by Boardroom Share Registrar. So as you can see that I have applied for Pelangi Publishing Group AGM. So you can see over here the note that is you have been applied. So if once you have received more notice of meeting and also the admin guide, you can follow the same steps for other meetings in the future as well. So if you are unable to attend this the virtual meeting, you can also appoint your proxy. So what you have to do is you have to go to this e-proxy lodgement and click apply on the meeting that you would like to appoint a proxy. So for example, I am clicking on Maju Perak. I have to select the terms, accept the terms and condition. So you will have to key in your CDS account information and the number of shares. Let's say if you do not remember the number of shares, no problem. You can just key in an amount and we will do the amendment on the back end. So on this page, you can choose to either select chairman, as the proxy of the meeting, or you can appoint proxies itself. So if you click to appoint proxies, you will then have to key in the proxy's full name, IC, his phone number, email address, and the number of shares, and then you click submit. Once you have clicked submit, you can list down your voting instruction for these proxies. So next is the function of the submit question. So when you want to, so for example, you can also refer to the notice, the administrative guide of the virtual meeting. So some of the PLC, they will indicate that you can submit the question through their portal, or you can write in through an email address of the company itself. So if, for example, here, Aneka Jaringan Holdings Berhad, they have opted for this submit question function from our portal. You can just click on this question, select the category, and key in your question, and you can add more question and click submit. So we also have this investor services whereby you can request for annual report or the circular as well. You can either key in the company or the Bursa stock code. But please note that this function is only available if the PLC themselves requested for this, which you can check from the administrative guide. So once you have submitted to attend a virtual meeting, you will receive an email notification upon the record of depository cutoff time, an email for your meeting ID and also your login credentials. So what you have to do on the meeting day is that you log into this web.lumiagm.com. You will be required to key in your meeting ID, the username, and the password. So once you have logged in, you will be brought to this website where you can see this is just a demo page. You can see the AGM, the virtual meeting information on the left-hand side of the page here. And on the right-hand side, which will be the broadcast panel. Because we do not have a live video at the moment, that's why you are unable to see any video here. So there are two other functions on this page, which is the Q&A, where you can ask a question right now. So you can type in your question here and click on this button here, and you will see that your question has been received by the board. So as mentioned by Samantha earlier, some PLC, they will choose to have the polling at the start of the meeting. You can actually click on the polling button at the top here and also put in and cast your vote. So once you have selected your choice, you will receive an indication that your voting has been received. So as long as the polling is still open, you can at any time change your selections until the chairman calls for the poll to be closed. Okay. So once the polling is closed, you can actually see it from the broadcast panel, whereby the chairman will announce closure of poll and the scrutineer will be verifying the results. So once at the end of the countdown to show the scrutineering, once the scrutineer has verified, you will be able to view the results from this broadcast panel here. So so this will be the end of my presentation. Back to you, Jeanette.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Samantha and Grace, for that presentation. So now, because we are running out of time, but we're going to pick up some questions. Mr. Deva and Sam, and anyone else from Boardroom, should you want to answer the questions. But we've got here one. I mean, it's up to either Samantha or Deva to pick up the question, the answer to the question here. So the first one is there a possibility of data manipulation of voting done at the virtual AGM? That's one. And one more, for those questions that were left unanswered, can a minority shareholder raise the question through MSWG? Maybe this too goes to Deva, is it?
Okay, thank you, Janet.
No problem.
The first question regarding data manipulation happens whether it's a physical AGM or virtual AGM. I suppose we are alluding to the polling itself. the calculation of number of votes, that's why they have scrutineers to help ascertain that, there's no manipulation. So I think it's a common risk that's being managed by the scrutineers and company secretaries and the board itself. Because both, I think, a physical or virtual AGM, they depend on technology. They leverage technology to do this. The second question regarding whether the questions can be passed on to MSWG, we don't actually act as a proxy for shareholders to ask questions, actually. But if you find that your questions are not being answered by the board, do highlight to us. What's very important is the question itself. And we'll see how we can best address it. Sometimes, in certain cases, we may feel that we can arrange a meeting for you with the board. In certain other instances, we will ask on your behalf. So we need to look at the question itself.
Okay.
Janet?
Okay. Thank you very much, Mr. Deva. So I think there's a few more on the chat. Does Sam or Mr. Deva want to pick up from any of the questions, or we can move on to the pop quiz?
The pop quiz don't have similar question here.
Oh, no, pop quiz is for the participants. So basically, a participant has asked a few questions on the chat. I noticed that Sam has been answering during the presentation as well. Thank you very much. But is there anything else you want to pick up in the chat, or we can proceed?
Okay, the chat questions are quite a number.
Yeah, that's why.
I'm just looking at it. I want to moderate and pass some questions to me.
You prefer that? I mean, it's up to you.
Yeah, I prefer that, Janet.
Okay. All right. Sure. Give me a moment.
Okay, there's one question here because I see my name there. Mr. Devanasan, are the answers from PLCs posted on MSWG website? Thank you. MSWG covers about 300 PLCs every year. And what we notice is that about 71%, that's about 214 companies actually post MSWG's questions and answers on their website. You see, one of the listing requirements is that the PLC must post key matters discussed at the AGM on their website. But the listing requirement doesn't say what are the key matters discussed. So some PLC says MSWG's questions and their answers, they deem it as key matters and then they post it on the website. While some other boards may decide, okay, this is not a key matter to me, the MSWG's questions, so I don't have to post it. Statistically, we can tell you that 71% of the companies that we cover, the 300 companies that we cover, the questions and answers are posted on the website.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Deva. Sam, do you want to pick up anything? One last one before we proceed to our pop quiz?
Yeah, so I've gone through those questions. Actually, a lot of them I have already tried to answer during the call. And this is the challenge, So you can see how challenging it is during physical AGM. A lot of time, the CEO presentation actually have a lot of this information, but certain questions are being repeated during the question session. So this is exactly the same scenario when a meeting is carried out, and the reason why not all questions are published, because to publish 100 over questions sometimes it's just not practical. But again, of course, for Boardroom, we do encourage our clients this year AGM to try and publish as many questions as possible. And as Mr. Deva has correctly pointed out, because it's mandatory, it is a mandatory requirement that all PLC, whatever deliberations, right, has been deliberated on, the minutes of that has to be uploaded on the website. So then that is where the shareholder can actually refer to in terms of the answer given for those questions that are being addressed. Questions that have not been addressed, again, as suggested by MSWG, you can write to the company for follow-up if you deem it necessary. Okay, there's one here that mentioned cost of RPV can be very high. They say what company has quoted 60,000. So actually it's not as high as that, unless I'm not sure, because I'm not privy to which company is that. But some company, when they ask AGM costs, so they actually take into consideration the postal, the printing and all that. And this is where, again, we say using technology. Now with the technology, you don't need hard copy. But if you need a copy of the annual report, you can go into our Boardroom Smart Investor portal, request a copy, and a copy will be sent to you as required under the listing requirement. Okay.
Okay, just one comment. And we don't expect all questions to be answered. Sometimes Sam is right, there could be hundreds of questions, What we're asking is for a reasonable amount of time to be given for the more important questions to be answered. So a moderator could have actually, sieved through all these questions and rank them, and then we have about, maybe ambitious, about 20 to 30 minutes of Q&A session here for this kind of sessions, and we just answer them.
Yeah.
Just some thoughts, Sam.
Yes, it's interesting, Sadeva. So it's just that because at the moment there's no clear guideline on this, right?
Yeah,
so
that's right.
Just to share with you, in Singapore guidelines by the authority, they have the word that PLC should answer substantive questions.
Exactly, some guidance,
right?
Even that's
yeah. So maybe SC may want to consider that. I'm not sure. But what is substantive again is subject to interpretation, right?
Yeah.
So yeah. Then I think one of the other questions is asking about, do I have to keep on registering? So if you use the Boardroom portal, it's only one-time registration, right? But of course, for the purpose of the verification against the ROD, right, you need to do for every AGM that you have selected because of the proxy cutoff date. Yeah. So I hope that has addressed all the questions. Janet, I hand back to you.
Okay, all right. Thank you very, very much. I think most of the questions has been answered, but don't worry. This webinar session will be posted on our social media platform and also on our YouTube channel. So you may actually go there and actually watch it again. Also, stay tuned. In February, we'll be having Mr. Deva back again with us, and also this time will be Tricor to do the webinar session. Yeah.